And I wanted to do something different, something that felt a little bit more like home, a little bit more like what's in here, you know, what's in like me as a person. And this really feels like that. Like this feels like my DNA. And it actually helped me heal a lot of my own personal weird stuff that I had with my relationship to music and to being an artist and to that like persona. And I was able to kind of come home and address it and sit with it and change the things that weren't working and fall in love with it again.
It sounds like she's saying the same thing.
I really wanted to like the album because I enjoy her music. And this will be a short review because the album is pretty self-explanatory and straightforward. It's about her failed marriage and her new boyfriend. So it seems. This is the first Ariana Grande album I've listened to from top to bottom. Reason is simple. Back in the day, before artists started releasing their music on their own YouTube channel, you had to purchase the album or download it on iTunes, which wasn't free, and I just wasn't about to spend money unless I really liked the artist. That being said, I would totally buy a Dangerous Woman and Sweetener vinyl. Before I get ahead of myself, let's go track by track. Intro. Well, just in case we, the listeners, may be speculating about who or what she's talking about in this song or album, she lays it bare.
Or does she?
She says she would rather tell the truth, and she has had an interaction she's been thinking about for 5 weeks. I don't think that confirms anything though. Sounds like she's talking about being married, but then she interacts with this other guy and things take a turn. But she could be talking about a past situation. Sometimes artists write songs for specific projects that never see the light of day for one reason or another. And then those very songs resurface later on another project because it fits. This could be the case. And if you think I'm pulling this out of my ass, let me play a few clips as examples.
I know people who will write a verse for one song and decide to just put it on another song. Or like, I like this chorus, but I like it with this pre-chorus from this song. And I'm like, I've never done that once.
Cutthroat track called Hushacha, which felt like an obvious diss towards Tupac, but technically it was recorded before Pac got shot, but it was marketed and released months after the incident. Regardless, the media developed the narrative that Big and Puffy set up the shooting and now released a diss record bragging about their hit, and Puff's full intentions were to stir up drama, as can be confirmed by the former president of Bad Boy Records.
Biggie might not have thought that when he wrote the lyrics that it was going to be used for that, but the way it was marketed by the company and released in the succession of things that were going on that we were dealing with on all the levels that we were dealing, that record did what it was supposed to do.
Not defending what she did, her being a homewrecker. However, these artists are business people first and will put out songs they know the audience will eat up. And maybe, just maybe, this is the case with this album. Bye. It's very Dua Lipa disco. What I want to know is, who is Courtney? Anyway, it sounds like she's saying bye to her ex-husband. Again, if we remove the context of her just having gotten a divorce, it just sounds like she's saying bye to an ex-boyfriend. I'm taking what's mine. It could be her belongings. It could also be her assets. Don't want to break up again. It's the fact that she's using the term situationship and breakup for me. She can't be talking about a marriage. You can't break up when you're married. You separate or you get a divorce. Unless, of course, she viewed her marriage as a situationship, which that in and of itself is a problem. Saturn returns. I'm very much into astrology, so this resonates very much with me, though I have reduced how much of that stuff I consume. There's some truth to it, but again, I take it with a grain of salt these days. Also, this fits neatly into the narrative about this album being about her failed marriage / home-wrecking new relationship, because she just turned 30 in the midst of all of this. Eternal Sunshine. Sounds like there was infidelity on both ends. Supernatural. This is the excitement and butterflies of a new relationship, or flink. I actually like this song very much. True Story, also one of my favorites on the album. Something about the song reminds me of Destiny's Child's Bills, Bills, Bills. The Boy Is Mine. Again, she's using the term boy and she's a grown woman. I know it sounds better than The Man Is Mine, but come on. Something about this one reminds me of J-Lo's Love Don't Cost a Thing. Listen closely to the beginning and the transition before the beat drops. It doesn't sound the same, however, I feel like the same formula was used. I have to say, Ariana's use of influences from the past decades is very subtle. So far, we have seen disco influences with Bye, late 90s to early 2000s with True Story and The Boy Is Mine, and late 80s into early 90s influence with Yes and, which is the next track. This is very reminiscent of Madonna's Pose, but the choreography is inspired by Paula Abdul, I believe. The hat she's wearing here is a dead giveaway. It's also giving Janet's Rhythm Nation. I have to admit, upon first listening to this song, I didn't like it. It sounded basic, but listening to it a few more times in my car won me over. I mean, I won't be having it on repeat or anything, but I also won't skip it on my playlist. The beginning of the video was too on the nose for me. But the stair choreography, I'm just now realizing how dangerous it was if someone missed their cue. Anyway, the lyrics are very sassy. Your business is yours and mine is mine. I mean, she's right, but that's also a way to avoid accountability. We can't be friends. The video concept was inspired by Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind movie with Jim Carrey, according to this YouTube short I saw. If I can find it, I will insert it here. So it makes sense why the album is called Eternal Sunshine. If it is indeed about her failed marriage, this album is like therapy for her. She's spilling the details, getting it off her chest in order to move on. Clean slate. All memories of this person erased to give her eternal sunshine in her head. Dang, was this person really that bad? Anyway, I don't agree with wiping your memory of every bad thing that ever happens to you. Maybe some, but not all. You gotta take the good with the bad. But okay, moving on. I wish I hated you. This one's a snooze fest. Next, Imperfect For You. I like a lot. It's a bit indie, and if you've been watching my music reviews lately, you'll know I'm a sucker for a good indie song. I really like what she did with that Imperfect For You. Kinda threw me off, but it works in the context. Ordinary Things featuring Nona, which is her grandmother, I'm assuming. That was a nice way to wrap up the album with a message from her grandma. So back to the beginning. I said that I really wanted to like the album because I enjoy Ariana's music and that I would purchase a Sweetener and a Dangerous Woman vinyl. Guys, I would also purchase an Eternal Sunshine vinyl because I liked the album. Okay, so I'm not obsessed with it, but it's alright. And honestly, on first listen of the album, I was severely underwhelmed. Perhaps because there are no features or collaborations on the album, aside from her grandmother. And that's not to say that she can't hold her own. She certainly can, but at least one feature would add a certain flavor to the album, I think. Anyway, I wanted to give it a second chance, and I did. Also, I'm not going to get the vinyl like tomorrow or anything, but I would get one. I'll give the album a 7 out of 10. I feel she hasn't evolved that much as a songwriter anyway. She sings about things that she was singing about in her 20s, and if the album was indeed about her failed marriage again, it was way too quick, in my opinion. I know people heal at different rates, but this only happened publicly last year. Emphasis on publicly. They could have been going through it for a while. We, the public, only found out about it last year, but it still doesn't justify what she did. That's just really messy. Close one door before you open another, preferably with someone who is single and available. Also, let me just say, it feels like she was getting the brunt of the blame and public lashing for breaking up a marriage, probably because she's the bigger star of the two, but it takes two to tango. Ethan is just as responsible for breaking up his own marriage and hers. Where's the smoke for him? Anyway, the short gap between the release of the album and this affair strongly convinces me that the album is marketed as being about Ariana's failed marriage, and Ethan, in order to get people talking about how she's a hoe and a homewrecker, but it may not even be about that. Artists need gimmicks these days, and we all got bamboozled. Alright, that's all I got. See you guys tomorrow.